Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Zan here, and we're going to be continuing our playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 as Japan, right where we left off. Um, just a heads up, the soundtrack for this game is fantastic as usual for Paradox games, but it was kind of overbearing in the last video, so I turned it basically all the way down. You can still hear it in the background if you listen closely, but just a heads up for that. So let's see where I believe we're just about ready to get started. We don't have anything to do there. We already did our trading. So yeah, I think we already got all of our units going. And I believe we're ready to get started. We're going to be playing on a pretty high speed for the early part of this game. In fact, we're probably starting on +5 speed, on the 5th speed setting. And going, see, and just playing on that for at least the build-up phase. Let's try to remember. That's not what I wanted. I wanted you. Is that all? Is that all of our navy all together at once? Yes, it is. That was much quicker than I expected. So we'll go ahead and split these guys up, and this is not going to be fun for anybody. So as Japan, we do start out with a pretty damn good navy. Uh, we've got relatively modern, actually not even relative. We've got a highly modern uh, set of research. We don't quite have too many of the 36 class stuff out, although we do have a decent bit. And I mean, considering it's the 4th of January, having any is really damn good. We are missing the destroyers, which kind of sucks. But we've got just about everything else except for I believe these are classified as super heavy battleships or something like that, which we probably won't get into too much. But the big thing is we've got the level 2 submarines and the level 2 carriers, which is absolutely fantastic because personally I really like uh, the whole submarine playthrough, and I think carriers, if we do for whatever reason end up going to war with the US, carriers are kind of what defined that battle historically. And actually, I forgot to do one thing. We are going to. It looks like someone might actually be boosting Communist Party popularity, which not sure I'm a fan of, because we're going to be boosting Fascist Party popularity in the United States. There is a pretty big uh, penalty to that. It's not that big. It's 20% penalty that America has because of one of their national spirits. Also, you can see the name of the fascist party of America is the Silver Legion of America, which I've never heard of, so yeah, take that as you will. Anyway, just so what I plan to do so far is to found our own faction, not get too caught up with Germany and everything. They'll be a nice ally potentially, but I don't really want to get caught up in their wars, especially because I really don't want to fight the Soviet Union because there's a whole lot of. Actually, I guess this land over here is pretty good, but other than that, there's a whole lot of useless land before you really get to the good stuff here, and especially in Baku. I don't know if I pronounced that right or not. I believe it's modern day Azerbaijan, maybe? I'm not 100% certain. Anyway, I really don't want to end up fighting the Soviets, so don't. I'm gonna try and avoid joining the Axis as much as possible. Anyway, I believe now we can actually get started now that I have taken care of the US. And this beginning part of the video, this video is going to be super boring. The last video, you know, we were doing all the setup and everything, so it kind of kept us pretty busy, but here, now, we're kind of just waiting for our 15,000 infantry weapon deficit that we've accrued because of uh, all of the units we're producing, as well as, actually I'm not sure, as well as what else. Most of our reinforcements, I believe, have the vast majority of theirs, so, I don't know. It's probably these guys maybe don't have their full weapons, yeah. So, oh, I see. So these guys that aren't at full strength don't have their full set of weapons, probably. That's probably why that's so high. Anyway, we still have a pretty big deficit of support equipment, fighters, close air support, all of which we're producing. So that'll be nice. Anyway, like I said, this beginning part's going to be pretty boring. We're pretty much just going to be on autopilot, pausing once our national focuses, and since they're take the same amount of time for everybody else's national focuses as well, stop, and we'll do that. We'll probably see the Spanish Civil War fire pretty early, as well as maybe the remilitarization of the Rhineland. We'll have to see. Hey, lucky. The remilitarization of the Rhineland, just like I said. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Anyway, so we finished spiritual mobilization. Our entire nation, not only our soldiers, need to be spiritually prepared for war. To this end, nationalists have been brought together in the National Spirit Mobilization Movement to boost patriotism and support for the government. So we get a national spirit that increases our recruitable population by 2.5%, which effectively doubles it. And as you can see, we just went from just under 1 million to now we've got over 2.5 million manpower, which is a huge increase. Next, we're going to be going for the student movement. The Ministry of Education is as important a part of the spiritual mobilization as any other, and having educators and students rally behind the nation will build a lasting, military-oriented education system. This is going to give us another national spirit that's going to reduce our land doctrine research time by 5%, which, as you can see, is pretty huge because land doctrines take 300 days at this point to do, which is why you really need to get on those early. Anyway, so let's see. Since the Meiji Restoration, we have sought to use the worship at Shinto shrines to promote imperial loyalty and aid in nation building. This has allowed us to build up a country that is ready to sacrifice much in the name of the state. So I think what I'm going to do is actually drop it to +3 and just let it play in the background while I'm doing all this. So it'll go a little bit slower overall, but I won't have to start and stop it as much. Anyway, we're going to keep going immediately onto mechanical computing. Just for the record, it's not a big deal that it's playing in the background. You do get 30 days of research saved up while it's playing. And we'll actually bump it up to +4 to do it that way. So this will give us a total of -6 once that's done. And actually we're going to bump it right back up to +5 because this beginning stage of buildup is pretty dang boring even for me. And I know I'm not the one watching this on YouTube, so these guys will deploy any minute now, and they'll start heading towards their respective fronts. So we've got 19 in China and 10 at the Soviet front. And so, like I said, we get the land doctrine research time down, and now we're going to work towards our 5th research slot, which will be super nice. Super nice. I really cannot emphasize enough how important that is. So, because we're mainly in, oh, I forgot to split up our navy, didn't I? Because we're mainly an island nation, and therefore we're relatively safe from bombing, especially because these Soviets probably have most of their air force in the West, and China doesn't really have much of an air force, I think. Can I check that? They do have a decent sized air force, about 100, 120 planes, but that's not much. Especially early on, they probably can't even reach the homeland. And we're going to be trying not to fight the United States and all their carriers. We're going to be going for concentrated industry as opposed to dispersed industry, which is probably better for someone like Germany, who's going to be taking a lot of beating from bombing. Anyway, we're going to be doing concentrated like I said. Just a few more. Oh, that was weird. I've started it, but it didn't actually start going. Anyway, let's check on... Oh, that must be the Iron Man autosave that's causing that. Yep, there it goes. Interesting, so we're waiting a long time on our... Oh, what is up with our... Why are we still getting so far in the negatives? We're not producing nearly enough for this. I think I started differently last time. So we're gonna bump this down to 2, that down to 1, that down to 1, fill out as much of that infantry as we can. Whew. 21,000, that's gonna take a long time to fill. How long, what does it say? 437 days, so June of next year we'll be ready to go to war. It's actually not that big of a deal because that's about when we'll be ready to actually go to war with China. So hopefully that works out for us. Oh, now that I remember, we should probably do our navy. We'll get a 4th carrier. I'm gonna wait until all of our what do I want? I want production. All of our stuff is produced, which shouldn't take that long, and then we'll have... Interesting. I didn't realize you could do that. And 15. We'll do that. Boom. You learn something new every day with a brand new game that just came out while I was at work earlier today. Anyway, once these guys are all finished producing their ships, we'll go ahead and sort out our navy. So July is a little earlier than I think I was planning for that. That's not true. We're going to go for the upgraded fighters now. Now, something I find super annoying with this game as opposed to Hearts of Iron 3. So we're taking the political power gain, which is going to bump us up back to that 1 per day that we had before we started boosting our ideology in the United States. For those of you that don't know, political power is how you buy advisors. It's how you change your economy, trade, and conscription laws. And you get a certain amount per day. The base value is 2. I believe Hitler gives you a 50% bonus, which is essentially 1 extra per day. I believe he's the only leader that has that. And then you can get political advisors that give you additional percent. each time, all the time you spend. Sorry, I had a thought. All the time you spend doing national focus, that reduces your political power by one, and then obviously stuff like boosting your ideology costs that. Um, it costs political power to justify wars. It costs political power to guarantee the independence of other nations. What I was thinking that paused me was, I can't remember if you actually do or not. If you get the 30-day build-up for national focuses that you get for not working on the next national focus that you get on not researching the next technology, it might actually, if you're really trying to min-max, be more beneficial to wait out that 30-day period, get the additional 30 political power from getting 2 per day, and then starting the national focus. But I'm not sure that the national focus works like that. And I imagine some of the QA testers had that same idea, so I wouldn't really expect that to work. So we'll take 1 day here, not work on a national focus. 1 day. It doesn't look like anything happened. So I did get an additional 1 political power that day, but I didn't actually get. Doesn't look like it stores up like research does. So there's 2 paths to take from here. I could grab these other 2 national spirits that are relatively cheap, or I can grab army primacy and go for the military factories and then go into the land doctrine research bonus speed, which is what I'm going to do, mostly because I really need the extra military factories because I'm way, 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 way behind on infantry equipment, way further behind than I was when I did my test playthrough, which really caught me off guard. So it's only July, so we're not going to start working on any major upgrades. Let's see, what can we work on? None of the 37 stuff. Don't really have the artillery to justify that. We're going to go for support weapons 1, which is kind of a weird. I don't understand why it's called support weapons. Because it really it's not like it's for your support units or anything like that. It's just a bunch of bonuses to various types of units, mainly your infantry, motorized, and mechanized. Your different types of infantry, as well as cavalry, I guess, is the best way to put that. So we're going to work on that, get that up. That'll give us an additional 5% breakthrough for most of our infantry, and a 3% for our marines, which will be super nice. Obviously, goes without saying. Let's check on this. So we're still way behind on infantry equipment, and so I don't really care about the Olympics. So as our ships finish producing and we start adding adding factories to these other ships further down the line, we are going to run into resource issues because those ships take more. So we're going to have to trade a little bit more just early on while we go ahead and while we go ahead and pump those ships out in the early game right here. And oof, that is a large deficit. Luckily, we produce quite a bit per day, almost at 70, and once these finish, we'll be back. We'll should be making. That'll fill us up, and we'll put one more on. I think we'll actually put it on the fighters for now, because I believe we'll get 4 more once this is done. Yeah, we got 4 more there, and we're gonna go ahead and grab this because I think that'll line up really well. It'll be a little bit delayed on this. We'll wait until concentrated industry is done and then swap over there. So now we did get our superior firepower, which allows the suppressive barrage tactic and also gives all frontline battalions, which I'm not really sure what that includes, an additional 20% soft attack. We did lose our entrenchment speed bonus as well as our max entrenchment, which is probably the least useful doctrine you can have unless you're going to be playing defensive, which I don't plan on doing. So like I said, we're not going to start delay right now because my biggest gripe with this game so far is that unlike in Hearts of Iron 3, where if you started a research, I don't believe they had the same research discounts in Hearts of Iron 3, so maybe this complaint's coming out of nowhere. But at least in Hearts of Iron 3, if you started a research ahead of time, like say if I started a 1937, there's a 37 stuff somewhere. Engineering stuff, or industry stuff. If I started the improved machine tools ahead of time, you get a penalty for doing that of a certain amount. But if you started it in, say, December, by the time January rolled around, it would automatically update, and you would get all of the progress you had made up until that point, and it would get rid of the ahead of time penalty. Now it looks like what they did actually with this is have the penalty scale throughout the year, so it's essentially the same thing. If you start way far ahead, you're going to get a way larger penalty. If you start a little bit ahead, like now it's October, you're still going to get a penalty, but it's not going to be a huge penalty. Now back to my gripe. You see I'm working, or have I started? Yeah, so I'm working on getting 50% research bonus for land doctrine, but I can't, if I start this land doctrine now, I'm still going to have to wait the entire 276 days to get this, and then I'll get the 50% bonus for the next one instead of it automatically updating. And it's probably super useful, so if for some of the other national spirits you get research bonuses for fighter models and tactical bomber models, so that you can, it's probably intended so that you can say, I'm working on a tactical bomber, the Key 21, and I start that national focus and I finish it before the Key 21, and I want to use the research bonus for the G4M. It won't automatically apply it to the Key 21. But for the land doctrines, that kind of sucks, because that's 50% bonus is huge, and I don't really want to spend 300 days waiting when in 70 days I'll get a 50% reduction. Anyway, that's just a little gripe I had with it. It's not a huge deal breaker, and we should probably get on to actually playing the game now, huh? So let's see, what do I want to research now? It is October, like I pointed out earlier, which means that I probably can go ahead and start researching stuff for 1937 without suffering too big of a penalty. 160 days as opposed to probably like 140. This is probably the base, somewhere around there. So we'll go ahead and start that, the production efficiency cap. is huge. It'll let me create even more infantry equipment. You can see we're not even at the original cap of 50%, and we do of course have that plus 5% from our basic machine tools. So let's see what we got. Insufficient resources. What do we need now? We need one more steel. Hey buddy, can you give us some more steel please? Thank you. Bye bye now. Bye bye. We'll see you later when we need you again. So that'll keep our ships rolling out. We're finally filling up the equipment needed for our Marines down here, as well as some of our infantry that are going to go to the Soviet front. Not quite enough to start working on the... what was that? Oh, insufficient resources. Again, we need some more steel. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. So I believe now we just have the... Nope, we still got one heavy cruiser, a carrier, and a battleship left. Probably have to get more steel for both of those, unfortunately. Oh, that was loud. But we did finish our concentrated industry, which is super good, as well as mechanical computing. Go ahead and start working on the next level of that. And we'll go ahead and get construction 2 as well, I believe. Yeah, we won't be able to get this until 38, so we're not going to start that a whole year early. But now, there's not really any good political advisors to choose from. Sorry if you guys can hear my dogs. They are crazy people, and they bark. So we're going to choose something else. There's a lot of really good theorists for Japan. They've got 3 experts, or whatever the 250 versions are. The Grand Battle Plan is the... that's not what I wanted. The doctrine that Japan starts with, but not the one we're going with in this. So he's kind of useless, unfortunately. The military theorist would be who we would go for, because he reduces all land doctrine research time by -7. But I don't think that's what we're going to go for. We're going to want to get our industry off to a good start. So we're going to get industrial research time reduction, which should, I believe that will automatically apply to this. Let's check. Well, I guess I can't check now that I've done that. Never mind. I believe it automatically applied to that. But the world will never know. So now we've got our research bonus for our doctrines, which means once our support weapons are done, we can go back to work on our doctrines. And now I think that's where we're going to leave that for now. And we're going to go back and grab... we're going to get this first. This will give us the national spirit, which will reduce our consumer goods, our factories that we're giving away to for consumer goods, which is currently 11 by 5%. So maybe we'll get an additional factory. Probably not, but we'll see. We've got not that much longer on our second synthetic refinery, which trade, that's what I need. We'll be able to cancel part of the oil that we're importing, and we can already actually get rid of one, which will give us an additional civilian factory, which will just speed everything else up, which is of course super nice. Anyway, that's where we're going to end this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's been a super slow start, but thank you for bearing with me. If you like this episode, please do hit the like button. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. And please leave suggestions in the comments below. Again, I'm still looking for suggestions on who to play for future playthroughs. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all